Why are you running for governor?
I'm running simply because Hoosiers deserve better. You know, I watched what happened when I was at the State House. I felt like Hoosiers didn't have a voice. I watched what's happening under the supermajority, where I feel like that there's such an imbalance, and we just deserve better. It's really that simple.
As governor, you could or would likely be working with a Republican majority, if not a supermajority. How would you work with a group that, for all intents and purposes, disagrees with a lot of your platform?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always important to reach across the aisle and make that attempt. Now, that's got to be reciprocated, but we certainly will as a team, and make sure that we staff with the very best that have relationships with some of those folks. I think that's important. Also, our lieutenant governor pick was very strategic in that he has a great relationship with many of them, as he served with the majority of who's still there. So we will make every attempt to do that. I think Hoosiers expect that, and that's what we deserve.
We asked viewers and readers online and on TV, what do you think is the most important issue right now in Indiana? And we had three close ones. Number one, more than anything else, was abortion. How would you, as governor, want to change the law on abortion in Indiana?
Yeah, so first we need a governor who will fight to restore reproductive rights and freedoms that were taken away from women. You know, our ban in Indiana is very extreme, and my fear is that the Braun-Beckwith team are wanting to go even further. And most Hoosiers, I mean, it's clear, over 70% of Hoosiers support women having autonomy over their own body. You know, I trust women, I trust our physicians. Abortion is complex, and it's got a lot of emotions, but women need to be able to make that decision about their health care with their own faith, their own, you know, physicians, and then those they deem who they want to bring into that circle. But again, it's complex, but it's health care. I mean, it's simple. It's health care.
Speaking of health care costs are expensive. What would you do as governor to bring down health care costs?
Yeah, again, we're going to have to work with the General Assembly because so much of that falls in their authority. But, you know, we can no longer be third in the nation and one of the most expensive, but it's not just about our costs, it's about the access. We also need to work really hard at not chasing out great healthcare providers, because that's happening right now as well. So we're going to have to work with our General Assembly to say what makes sense on really good policies in order to attract and retain really good healthcare providers, but also get that cost down. Part of that is the monopoly that we have in Indiana in our healthcare systems, and it's shutting down a lot of our local providers, and the competition is becoming less and less, and that's not good. But it can be addressed, but it's going to take policy. You know, we watch it. You know, the General Assembly had a lot of pressure over the last two sessions to address it. They didn't really go far enough. And so, you know, once I'm in office working with our General Assembly to say what are some of those steps we can take forward in order to get those costs down and make sure we have access.
The second most popular answer in terms of most important issues for Hoosier voters was the economy and property taxes. Have you heard that on the trail from people?
I have. I mean, there are a lot of people that are concerned about our wages. You know, we are 47th in the nation on annual wage growth, so our wages aren't going anywhere. But at a time where like utility costs and housing and, you know, groceries and gas and the list goes on, people are feeling that, but we're not having our wages reflect those costs going up. And so the issue of just wages comes up quite a bit. Access to good paying jobs in the locations they're in. You know, Indiana's fastest growing jobs require less than a high school diploma, and the pay reflects that, and that's not a good place to be. So I do hear a lot about that. Property taxes, of course. I mean, all taxes come up, but property taxes come up quite a bit. We know the importance of those because they service our local communities, our schools, our libraries, our police. You know, there's parks. There's so much on the line for our property taxes, but a big pocket of Hoosiers are feeling it because of the mass amount of increase at once. And also, you know, some folks are on fixed income or those wages are impacting that. So our common sense property tax relief plan came out where every Hoosier would get a little bit of relief, but then we also gave a little bit more relief to whether you're a veteran of the military, whether you're a senior citizen, or those who are living in poverty that would need a little extra help. So we know it's a problem problem. We tried to roll that out, though, weighing you still have to have amazing quality services at that local level. So we didn't want to cripple our towns and our cities, but also we wanted to have relief for Hoosiers. So we did that through the state level mechanism. So, we use bipartisan language and things we thought would really serve Indiana well. It would be ready to go day one. It's just we have to have our General Assembly have, the willingness to address it.
Where would property tax reform be on your priority list?
It'd be one of the top three, right? So property taxes are huge. So day one, we go in, it's ready to go. The language is written, the fiscal impact is written, is figured, and so we're ready to go. Day one, it's one of our top priorities.
Also, in terms of the economy, how would you help champion economic growth in Indiana specifically?
Yeah, we have to attract good paying jobs, and how we do that is make sure we have incentives to do that, which I think let's give credit where credit's due. We've done a nice job on regional approaches through grants and through different incentives to get jobs here, but we have to have an educated and a healthy workforce and an educated and healthy consumer. And right now it's hard to attract good paying jobs that require high skills if we don't have the education to match that. So we got to prioritize education, which is over half of the state budget, but is a direct link into making sure that economy is strong and we are enticing good paying jobs to come here. Also, small business, really is an engine for Indiana, and we need to make sure we're incentivizing small business, providing mentors that would be helpful, making sure that we're doing it in a fair way, but getting it to those folks who need it in an expedited fashion as well. So there are a lot of layers to it, but we have some in place. Let's grow upon what's successful, but let's tweak a bit what needs to be fixed.
Along those same lines, I wanted to ask you, what you can do, what a governor can do to convince young people in Indiana to love this state and want to stay here and build a family here.
Yeah, and I hear about it from a lot of young people. So, I was an educator. I'm a mom. My son's 26, and so I hear from a lot of his friends. But, we're on the trail a lot, whether we're on universities, and talking to young people who are at the university level, or whether we're talking to people just in their communities, young people. They're very concerned. That generation, they're passionate about their reproductive rights and freedoms. They're passionate about access to birth control. Many of them want affordable education, and they feel like that's a barrier in Indiana right now. Many will come up to me and say, at some point I want a house and I'm never going to be able to afford a house. So there's just pieces of it that they're paying attention. They also don't like the divisiveness. So what we hear from young people is we just want people to get along and get us some solutions, like solve our problems. And, they appreciate diversity of Indiana. They want people included in Indiana. They want a successful state that we all get along and we're all rowing in the same direction. And so I have a lot of hope with our young people, but they got to get out and vote. We're 50 out of 50th in voter turnout. Our young people in Indiana don't vote, but when I talk to them, like, why aren't you voting? Many of they say, what's the point? We're so gerrymandered, or it won't matter because we don't have a ballot initiative to have our voice like other states. So they're paying attention. They're so disgruntled by the direction the state's going is another piece of that, but we got to give them a reason to vote, and we're working really hard to do that.
The Ball State annual Hoosier survey this year once again showed, for I don't know how many years in a row, the majority of respondents said marijuana should be legal in some form. In fact, just 9.8% of people said it should not be legal. Would you push for some sort of change in marijuana laws?
Absolutely. It's time. I mean, we're missing out on a lot of revenue that, Hoosiers are purchasing, but it's going to other states. I'm also hearing a lot from medical folks who have the need for it medically, whether it's, behavioral or mental health issues, or whether it is, like a terminal illness that they're wanting some pain relief. I hear from a lot of people on that medical end that they want that to be an option. And so many of them are going to get it. Now they have to worry about bringing it back and being held responsible for bringing it from out of state. And so there's a lot of pieces of that. Healthcare providers are also, many of them have said we support it being an option. But I think that's the first step, the medical piece, and making sure we have a well-regulated industry. We learn from those other states who did it well. We learn from the states who didn't do it well. And then we take the best of the best. We're behind in the state in that regard as far as just one more revenue source that we could take advantage of. Once it's well regulated and things are moving, I have no problem looking at opening up for recreation, but I don't think we free for all that right away. I think it is a step process, and again, learn from others who did it well and those who didn't.
You are the underdog Democrat running in a Republican state against a Republican U.S. Senator who's won a number of races. How do you convince the people of Indiana to give you the job?
Yeah, we're working it hard. We're on the road. We're getting to the people. We're talking to people. We're listening to people, and people appreciate it. We're also staying focused on issues that are concerning to most Hoosiers, that reproductive rights and freedoms, access to affordable health care, education, child care, it's huge, and then those good paying jobs. And so we're staying on those topics that most Hoosiers are like, yes, we need some solutions. They're worried about their water. We have those utility costs. We're staying really focused on the issues at hand, but we're working really hard to be really good about going into those communities and being a good listener and then informing Hoosiers. And it has gone well. So we like where we are in the polls. We like the response we're getting. Also, our response that we're seeing everywhere we go. We're filling town halls, standing room only. It's amazing, but it's not just Democrats. It's Republicans who are coming to be informed that don't like the option of the Braun-Beckwith ticket because they see them as way too extreme. We also are getting some really good feedback from independents. So, I know it's not hard, it's hard work, and we're willing to put that in, and we'll continue to do that.
All right, so we've talked about Jennifer McCormick, the candidate. Let's talk about Jennifer McCormick, the person, the Hoosier. What do you do when you're not working? Who are you?
I'm always working. So since I was a young person, I worked. I'm fifth generation farm family. So we've been in Indiana, born in Scott County, Scottsburg, and then really raised and went through K-12 in Newcastle, God's country for basketball. So, have since returned to our farmhouse in Newcastle. My mom passed away 10 years ago. I take her spunk and her spirit with me. She was just a firecracker. She was very focused on community service, philanthropic activities, and then my dad is an 83-year-old Purdue engineer, and his whole motto was you work and you work hard, and so I take that from him, and he continues, his mind is sharp as a tack. He continues to tell me what I'm getting right and what I'm getting wrong during the campaign, so I take that anytime I can get it. And then my husband is an educator, and our son is transitioning out of the military into to civilian life with a little cyber and finance. So that's who I am. I was an educator by trade for 20 years. 10 years I taught, and then I was an administrator for almost 2.5 decades. So that played well for me, and loved every bit of that. I was a teacher, a principal, a local superintendent, and then our state superintendent, the last elected, number 44, last elected state superintendent of Indiana. And I took that with me, and I honor that opportunity, as I felt like I served Indiana really well with the team that we had, and just appreciated and was honored to have that opportunity.
What made you make the switch to politics?
Yeah, it's a great question. So my husband asked the same thing, like, what are we doing here? So when I was a local superintendent, I was paying attention to, at the time, the Department of Education, and I felt like intentions were good, but we need a little bit more help at that local level. And there were a lot of superintendents saying, hey, someone's got to do this who has that superintendency experience. And I was, I'll get behind, if I think you're good at it, I'll get behind. They're like, no, Tag, you're it. So a lot of people encouraged me to run, and I said, I've never done this before. I don't know where to get yard signs. And but anyway, fast forward, it all worked out. And so for me, it was about valuing Hoosiers, to be a public servant, and just try to make things better for Hoosier kids.
Why did you switch parties?
Yeah, for me it was values. The party has really changed. I talk to local Republicans a lot, and they're saying the same thing. Many of them have also switched parties, or they just feel like they don't want to be called anything anymore. So it's not just me, it's a lot of people who are feeling that way from what I've been being told and what I'm hearing. But it's about values. When your party's going one way, and I've always been fiscally conservative and responsible, I've always been focused on people and opportunity. opportunities, and I've always been pretty optimistic about the future. And I taught kids for a long time that their character mattered, and so it's hard for me to get behind the Republican Party that it seems to be going away from that. But it's unfortunate. We want the Republican Party to be strong and functional, and we want the Democratic Party to be strong and functional, and I think that's better for all of us. But I just don't see that that's where we're at right now.